Have you ever watched Twisted Horror Stories? A blood-curdling experience is created by the intertwining of 5 horrifying tales involving a flesh-eating killer clown, a vengeful necromancer, and illegal immigrant zombies. Turn off your light in your room and watch out. Today we are covering a 2012 horror movie called Scary or Die. The movie starts with a guy who enters a house at night. He turns on his computer and types scaryordie.com in a search bar. He finds a video titled The Crossing. He clicks on it and the screen buffers and fades to black, and a girl named Connie is seen sitting in the front seat of a truck. She is sandwiched between the driver named Buck and another guy called Keith. Keith pulls a jar out of the back and starts drinking something strange. Connie asks what it is, as she can smell something funny. Buck explains that it's homemade alcohol. Keith asks Connie to drink some and loosen up. She starts kissing Buck while Keith puts her hand on his crotch. After a while she asks them to stop for a bathroom break. They park at a rest stop. Connie gets out and heads to the bathroom and Buck follows her. In the meantime, Keith buys snacks at the store. He starts talking with the cashier and asks him if he's ever lost at a coin toss. Keith soon realizes that the man doesn't speak English very well and starts to say racist things to him as he pays. As Keith is eating, Buck and Connie come out of the bathroom adjusting their clothes. They all get in the car and drive off. While driving away, we see the shopkeeper dead at the entrance of the store with blood all over the floor. While driving off to barren terrain, Connie complains again about Keith's smell. They park in the middle of nowhere and Connie asks what they are going to do. They get out of the truck and head to the back. Buck removes some sheets to reveal 2 men tied up and lying down in the truck. Connie asks if they've been there the whole time and asks Buck to let them go. Buck makes them sit up and remove their gags. They are both immigrants and Buck tells them that they are trash and are ruining his country. One of them, by the name of Jose Cuervo, tries telling them that he is a tax-paying citizen. Suddenly the other old man tries to run away, and Keith pulls out his gun and shoots him. Connie cries over his body and tries to wake him up while Buck slashes Jose's throat as he begs for mercy. Buck then tells Keith to take care of the bodies and they wonder where Connie went. Keith starts peeing on the newly dug grave of their victims. Suddenly Connie returns with a shotgun and holds it to Keith's head. She demands the keys to the truck and knocks Keith over with her gun. When Keith tries to get up, a hand reaches out from the ground and claws one of his eyes out. Suddenly zombies start to rise out from the ground. They kill Keith and start to eat him. One of the zombies tries to grab Connie, but Buck saves her. Buck isn't so lucky himself. A zombie grabs him and he becomes the next victim. Connie manages to run away. Maybe a zombie. They leave her behind for the animals and go about their business. Seen drinking heavily in a bar. He gets up and starts walking out while lighting up a cigarette. He walks down the stairs to the street at the door of the bar. He sees a couple making out and he starts staring at them, at which point the man gets angry. The man keeps walking down the street until he reaches a store. He buys flowers from the store owner and walks to his apartment, hesitating before walking in. Once inside, he put the flowers in a pot in front of his dead wife's picture and walks out to the terrace for a drink. That night, he lays awake all night thinking of her. When the morning comes, he lights some incense for her while her ghostly apparition stands there watching. He is seen going to a mall where he follows 2 young girls around. He is asked by a man if he needs help. He refuses and quickly walks away. That night, he is seen sitting on a bench. Some girls pass by him. Out of nowhere one of them gets abducted by a man. Tanjung tries to help her but gets pushed away by the kidnapper. While the girl is being forced into the car, Tanjung manages to throw his phone into the gas tank as the car speeds off. He quickly sits on the sidewalk and takes out his laptop as he has a tracking app on his phone. He starts following the tracker all around the city in order to find the car. He finally finds the car in an old lot near the river. Some thugs are trying to steal the car. They scare Tanjung off with a pistol and he runs away. While stumbling around, he sees a person from a distance in the alley and watches a man brandish a knife over an unconscious woman's body. He realizes that it is the same girl kidnapped earlier. He cleverly approaches the man, and with a rock and smashes him over the head, causing him to fall into the river. He makes sure the woman is all right and he drops her home. She thanks him for saving her life. He advises her to call the police, but she tells him that she can't do that because they will send her back to her country. As she is leaving, She runs back to him with his jacket and a note, inviting him to a party the next day. She kisses him and insists that he must come. The girl's friends walk over to her and take her inside. The next day, he decides to go to the party where the young woman greets Tanjung. He gives her a flower and she takes him inside where she performs an odd ritual along with some of her friends. The ritual quickly turns into an orgy. We then see a couple of dead butlers in the hall with blood dripping down their throats. Next, a tall man is seen walking down the hall with a bag. As he approaches the house, he pulls out weapons from the bag. Meanwhile, inside the house, the women suddenly reveal their fangs and start to bite Tanjung's neck. It is revealed that they are all killer vampires. The scene shoots back to the man outside, who has the name Van Helsing written on his bag. Next, we are then taken back to the computer screen, where the person clicks on another video with his burnt hand. A man is driving down the highway and is pulled over by a cop. The cop tells him to put his hands on his wheel as he checks his driving license. While walking back to his car, the cop hears a noise in the trunk and demands that he open it. The driver reluctantly opens the trunk while the cop goes to have a look inside. The movie cuts quickly to an earlier scene where we see the same man in his bathroom. He is mutilating a dead body in his bathtub. Afterwards, he washes up, gets dressed in a nice suit, he puts the body into a bag, he writes a note to get payment for the murder job and leaves it on the desk. He sits down on the sofa with his feet on the table and smokes a cigar. He is looking through the stuff of the man he has just killed. He is then seen putting the body in his car trunk and driving through the city. While driving, he thinks he can hear noises coming from the back, but finds nothing when he checks. While driving, he sees something in the road which makes him swerve. This leads back to the story, where he has been pulled over and the cop is checking the trunk. The man pulls out a gun, but to his surprise, the cop finds nothing in the trunk and lets him off with a warning. Slightly freaked out by this, the man quickly pulls up and looks in the trunk only to find the old satanic medal. Suddenly he can hear loud breathing sounds. It makes him scared and quickly runs back to his car where he finds the dead man sitting in the front seat. The dismembered parts of the dead man are now restored. The dead man vanishes suddenly. Video selected on the computer is called Clown. It starts with a guy named Emmett spending a day at the beach with his brother Andy, and his girlfriend Kelly. He is playing football with him and scores a goal. Andy runs off to find the ball under the huge deck while Emmett rubs sunscreen on Kelly's back. They suddenly see a disoriented woman standing in front of them under the deck. Andy hears a kid crying for help. He freaks out and runs to Emmett telling him that there is no baby out there. As they are about to leave, two girls show up in a car and ask Emmett to sell them drugs. He sells them some of the drugs and gets angry when they try to pay with a check. He then goes home where his mom is busy decorating the house for Andy's birthday party. She asks Emmett for help, to which he hesitantly agrees. Next, we see Emmett dealing drugs on the streets with Kelly. They sell drugs till late at night. And then they go back home, during the party, and Emmett is seen asleep in his room with Kelly. His mom abruptly knocks on the door and tells him that a kid has gone missing. She tells him that she is disappointed with him and asks him to pay the clown while everyone looks for the missing kid. As he enters the kitchen, he finds the clown looking for something. He tries to stop him, but the clown continues, at which point, Emmett kicks the clown out of his house. Suddenly the clown attacks Emmett by biting his legs. Kelly shouts at them both to stop and the clown wanders off. Kelly dresses his wounds. She hopes that the clown didn't have any diseases and she tells him that she'll take care of him. In the morning, they both go back to dealing drugs when a couple of boys come over to buy drugs in a car. Emmett suddenly vomits all over them and Kelly decides to take him home. While at home, his mom tells him that a couple of police officers are here to ask him some questions about the clown and the missing kid. He tells the cops that the clown bit him and ran off, and the officers get into a stupid argument. Kelly yells at the officers and tells them that the clown seemed very suspicious. The bite marks seem to be getting worse, and that night, Emmett dreams about someone breaking into Andy's room and he decides to go in to check on him. Andy wakes up and asks why anybody would hurt him. Suddenly Andy screams in terror, as Emmett turns into a clown. Emmett wakes up to realize that it was just a dream. He finds Andy to be fine in his room. Emmett is surprised to see that his face is turning white and realizes that he is becoming a clown and runs away, leaving Kelly and his mom shocked and not sure what to do. His family contacts the police and puts up flyers in an attempt to find him, but he decides to stay hidden, covering his face with a rag. He wanders around town in a mess, hungry and looking for food. Back home, his family are in great distress and worried for him. One day he lurks outside the window and watches his family from the bushes. That night he decides to break in and gives Andy a balloon while he's asleep. Emmett becomes saddened as he knows what he's fighting is inevitable. He takes his rag off to reveal that he has turned into a terrifying clown with white hair. He manages to open his mouth, which has been sewn shut, and phones Kelly. She tells him she has news, but he just asks her to tell Andy that he would never hurt him and hangs up. He falls asleep in the garbage, and dreams about Andy having a picnic with a clown in a forest at night. The clown tries to hurt him with a knife, at which point Emmett is woken up by two men trying to steal his shoes. Meanwhile, back at home, they get a strange note, and a clown abducts Andy. The family call the police as the clown takes Andy to the woods. Andy thinks the clown is Emmett and goes with him to the forest at night. There he spreads a picnic table and takes off his mask to reveal that he is someone else. Emmett suddenly jumps out of the forest to rescue Andy. Emmett then kills the clown and starts to eat him as Andy watches from behind the trees. He realizes that Andy has seen him and walks over to reassure him that he would never hurt him. Andy says that he's scared, which makes Emmett sad. He tells Andy to go back home by saying that he'd die rather than hurt his brother. The next day Emmett is seen walking around when two cops show up. When Emmett points a toy gun at them, they shoot him dead. The last video to be played on the computer is called Love Her Back. In this video, we see a woman telling the viewers that she never thought that she'd find true love in life, but she did. She is walking across town and keeps saying that it's the most beautiful thing she has ever experienced. She then discloses that her grandfather was amazing but used to do spells. He did a spell on her once when she was a kid. He gave her a necklace made from the soil that her ancestors are buried in. She then proceeds to explain that her lover has changed and has become physically abusive. She realizes that he doesn't love her anymore and he has been cheating on her. She decided to stay with him because she truly loves and adores him. Her lover's behavior and abuse become worse until one day he chokes her to death. He puts her in a trunk and leaves her body in the woods. The woman searches around until she finally reaches a car where she sees her lover with another girl. As she moves towards them, they notice her flesh rotting off her face. She reveals that she had made a promise to herself that she will spend her life with her lover in life and after death. She is very determined to keep the promise because her love for him is pure and true. After the video ends, he closes the website on the computer. Inside the room, the woman with the flesh-rotting face from the last story appears and slams the door shut and the movie ends. If you've watched this video, you're wonderful. If you want to see more movie recaps like this, hit the subscribe button to become a part of our filmy family.